As I said yesterday, we're going to do the great compassionate deity initiation. When we do the Jenang permission initiation, without the full-fledged initiation, having received the full-fledged initiation, you cannot take the Jenang fully. So since I'm doing the white Manjushri permission initiation, or permission to practice, so I thought to make it a complete process of the initiation or the blessing, and I thought of doing this initiation of great compassionate deity. So with regard to the practice of Tantra, the mantra, secret mantrayana, Master Nagarjuna, he says at the end of the 60 stanzas of reason, made through this, through the power of this virtue, may all sentient beings be able to complete the accumulation of merit and wisdom, and through which they could attain that of the noble form body and the dharmakaya. And so he had made such a dedication, and Master Chandrakirti also at the end of his at the end of the 6th chapter of Madhyamaka Avatara, he makes that by cultivating the wisdom, realizing the two truths, the conventional and the reality as it is, may sentient beings be able to have both the wings of the swan which who leads the groups of the flocks of birds across the ocean. And so without the form body, the Buddhas are not able to perform enlightened deeds for other sentient beings as such. And with regard to the Dharmakaya as the Jnanakaya or wisdom truth body, and the form bodies, which are those of the Rupakaya or the Nirmanakaya and Sambhogakaya, they are compounded phenomena, and therefore they arise from the conducive, compatible causes and conditions. And so just as a plant is nurtured and it grows from a seed into shoots and so forth with the help of cooperative conditions such as the water, manures, and warmth and so forth, likewise, because we have this basic nature of clear light mind, so which is the substantial cause for the later moments of consciousness, and therefore, since consciousness needs a substantial condition or cause, thereof a moment, previous moment of the consciousness, therefore there is no beginning and end to it. And so in the Sutrayana, there is no real the substantial cause of Buddha body, form body of a Buddha, but it is taught in Tantrayana, and particularly the highest Yoga Tantra. As I said before, in the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, the one aspect of the third turning of the wheel of Dharma, so the Buddha taught that of the the Buddha nature, the clear-light nature of the mind. And so this subtle mind goes from here to that of the Buddha, the state of Buddhahood. And so it is called the all-excellent one. It has come from time beginningless and goes all the way to Buddhahood. So if we have to say that the Dharmakaya or the wisdom truth body needs its substantial cause, whereas the form body does not need a substantial cause at the part of the level of the training, that's not going to be a reasonable position. And therefore, in order to have the substantial cause of the Dharmakaya, or the form body, in the highest Yoga Tantra, there is this mention of the subtlest mind and the subtle energy. And so our mind also, when it gets to the subtlest aspect, it is this clear light mind. And together with it is this subtlest energy, the motile energy. At the resultant state of Buddhahood, the body, speech, and mind, which are also termed as the three secrets, become of one taste. And therefore, if that is the case, then that must come from a cause which is compatible to bring about such a state of the one taste of the three secrets. And so with regard to that, Master Nagarjuna has written Dorje and Dose, which relate those of the development or the generation stage of Guhya Samaja. And then with regard to the completion stage, Nagarjuna has written the 5 stages. And for that, there is also like a commentary by Master Aryadeva, which is called Judu, the Compendium of Practices. And then Master Chandrakirti also wrote the Bright Lamp, which is a very detailed explanation of the Guhya Samaja Tantra. And in history, there were people after the death of the Buddha who said that the Mahayana is not a teaching of the Buddha, and tantrayana is not a teaching of the Buddha. And therefore, Master Nagarjuna, in his Ratnavali, Precious Garland, actually argues that Mahayana is a teaching of the Buddha, and Bhava Viveka also very strongly argues for Buddha, Mahayana as the teaching of the Buddha, Mahayana's teachings. And then there is also in the Master Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charya Avatara as well, this argument. So if we have to look, if we look at these arguments, it would be very difficult to actually hold the position, what the Buddha had taught, unless we are able to prove it through reasoning. And therefore, in these treatises, lots of reasonings are used to prove that Mahayana is teaching of a Buddha. And if we also could follow reasoning and logic, so what is well known to both the Pali and the Sanskrit traditions, the Vinaya, and the Sutra, and Abhidharma texts, and scriptures or teachings. So with regard to the Abhidharma, we can actually use reasoning and logic to prove that liberation and omniscience are possible. Otherwise, without using reasoning, it's just going to be difficult. And the sacred mantrayana is said to be not the teaching of the Buddha, but in fact, it is said that it is an interpolation from the Hindu tradition or the non-Buddhist tradition. So, of course, there are people who say such things even today. So in Tantra, there are lots of deity yoga practices, visualizing yourself as a deity, and also doing all kinds of practices for pacification and increase and so forth. So there are peaceful and wrathful deities in the tantric practices, which are also there in the non-Buddhist traditions. Many of them. And also there is a practice based on, practice whereby the practitioner can use those of the chakras, the wind energies, and the vital drops, and also tumo, the inner heat, and also the practitioners even today, amongst the non-Buddhist practitioners, there are those who can actually bring and activate those of the vital drops and bring them down from the crown and down and to the lower part of the channels and upwards. So what makes a difference between the non-Buddhist Tantra and the Buddhist Tantra is Buddhist Tantra, whether a certain Tantra is a Buddhist teaching or Buddhist Tantra or not, although in Buddhism we do practice deity yoga, we do visualize ourselves as deities and so forth, but that is done from within meditation on emptiness. And so, although there are many who do meditative recitations of deities and so forth, but without really, many of you do practice without really having any insight or understanding of emptiness. So if without that, it's really going to be difficult to do deity yoga practice. You cannot, if you actually think that this very body made up of flesh, bones, and blood is itself the body of a deity, if you think like that, that is wrong. So we have to be able to gain or attain the resultant state by cultivating the path which is unmistaken. And therefore, when you do the visualization of yourself as a deity, in any kind of tantric practice that we do, there is this meditation on emptiness, which is showed by this mantra Om Swabhava Shuddha Sarvadharma Swabhava Shuddha Hang, or in Tibetan, and so forth. Everything dissolves into emptiness. So Kunulama Rinpoche once told me that, of course, I asked him, how do we differentiate between the non-Buddhist and Buddhist tantras? Because both do have the practice of using vital energies and drops and channels, chakras, and so forth. And so he differentiated it by saying that when you have this practice of emptiness, the selflessness, and which is very important in all three vehicles, and especially and particularly in Tantra, without this wisdom of emptiness, you cannot do tantric practice properly. And so the Tibetan masters of the past have said that the visualization or the meditation on emptiness, the insight into emptiness, is like one side of the luggage which you put on a beast of burden, and so the other side of the load is that of bodhicitta. And so the practice of using the vital drops, channels, and the wind energies and so forth are there in the non-Buddhist traditions as well. And so it is within this body that we are doing, on the basis of which we are doing this meditation. But when we do it within the context of Buddhist practice, we do so by first meditating on emptiness and dissolving everything into emptiness, and then from there transforming yourself into the deities. And therefore, in the Nyingma tradition, there is mention of the 9 yanas. And so the 9 yanas are those of the Kunjun Dembe Thekpa, which means leading the disciples through those of the meditation on the Four Noble Truths, such as the origin of suffering and so forth. And then there is the within that is the Shiravakas, Pratyeka Buddha yanas, and Bodhisattva yana. And then in the external Tantra, there are Kriya, Upa, and Yoga Tantras. And then in the last set of 3 in the Nyingma tradition, we have those of the, in the Sarma tradition, there are this of the the division of the highest Yoga Tantra into the Father Tantra, Mother Tantra, and then the non-dual Tantra. So Father Tantras refer to those Tantras which emphasize that of the method side of the practice. And then the Mother Tantras are those which emphasize the wisdom side. And then when you have both called equally emphasized, that is non-dual Tantra. And so these are mentioned also in the Haihe Vajra Tantra as well. And in Nyingma tradition, there is this mention of Wangyur Tapkitekwa, which means a vehicle of the mastering the means or the method. So this has its own significance. So in the when you do meditation, you don't use just the gross state of mind, but it is the subtle mental consciousness which is used in this meditation. And so when it comes to the 5 elements, external elements, we have the earth element and so forth, and including space. And then when it comes to the inner experience of the space, there is mention of the 4 empty states. So just as in the external world, everything arises from the space particle and then dissolves. From the space arises that of the energy, and then the fire, waters, and then the earth elements, and then it all, from starting with the earth element, it all dissolves back into space. And similarly, it is the case in the internal world, that everything arises from this space of the consciousness and the subtle mind, clear light mind, and then the rest of the elements arise, and they dissolve back into the. And so, with regard to the material elements inside ourselves, such as those of the space, fire or heat, and so forth, up to earth element, they arise from that space and then dissolve back into the space itself. And so, in the external world, everything dissolves back into the space. And in the internal experience of we say that everything dissolves and arises from this clear light nature of the mind, and it all dissolves back into it. And so this very clear, innate clear light mind is the source from which everything, all these gross states of mind and wind energies also arise. So in this way, using this kind of understanding and gaining mastery and control over these elements and so forth, you have this the mastery of the method. So the mastery here refers to a practice of yoga in relation to, in connection with this clear light, innate clear light mind. So in Dzogpa Chenpo Adi Yoga, this is emphasized in its practice. So in the Buddhist practice, you first, even in the Sutrayana, we do cultivate this wisdom realizing emptiness, which comes through study first, and having studied about emptiness, you then do critical reflection on it and gain conviction in emptiness, and then you develop the wisdom or the insight through meditation. And through this, in this way, when you tread along the path and progress along the path until it culminates into that of the Buddha's Dharmakaya. So in the Sutrayana, there is no path which is called and has the same kind of aspect within the path itself, which resembles that of the form body. Although there is the path which resembles the Dharmakaya in Sutrayana, and so it is said that without this practice, where there is a resemblance of the Rupakaya, the form body of a Buddha, within the path itself, you cannot actually attain it, the Rupakaya, merely by following the Sutrayana path. So there are these twofold body of Buddha, the Dharmakaya and Rupakaya, which are our objective or aim. And if that is the case, then within the path leading to that, there should be the path which has the same aspect of these two resultant bodies. So Kunken Lama Jamyang Sherpa says that the subtlest obscuration of knowledge can only be overcome through the tantric practice, not through the sutric path. And so Buddhist Tantra must be related with the wisdom of emptiness and also that of bodhicitta. And so whatever deity yoga, deity you visualize yourself transforming into, you should do that from within meditation on emptiness, so that this body and mind, which are ordinary that we have now, are dissolved into emptiness. And all these appearances, the ordinary appearances, are dissolved or withdrawn, and your mind is single-pointedly absorbed in emptiness. And you should actually feel that this mind which meditates on emptiness is the subtlest clear light, innate mind. And from within this meditation on emptiness, with that subjective clear light mind, then you arise into a deity. And so, even in this case, in the case of the initiation here, which is of the great compassionate deity, which comes under the category of the Kriya Tantra, and within the Kriya Tantra, there are those of the yoga signs with yoga, yoga with signs and without signs, and so we create the courses the complete causes for the attainment of the two Buddha bodies. So, as Master Nagarjuna has mentioned, that may the sentient beings attain through the accumulation of merit and wisdom thereof the two holy or noble bodies, of which are Rupakaya and the Dharmakaya. And so when you meditate on emptiness, you're ascertaining, your mind is conceiving emptiness and being certain about the meditation on that emptiness. And while that very mind which is absorbed in emptiness also transforms into the deity. The apprehended object, as it is said, transforms into that of the deity. And so, within the teaching of the Buddha, as I have said before, there is the general structure of the Buddha's teaching, and then specified teaching, or specifically tailored teachings. And so, the general structure actually gives us this broad base for the entire teaching of the Buddha. And whereas these specifically tailored teachings cannot be generalized. So, with regard to these tailored or specified teachings, the Buddha gave the tantric teaching sometimes in the form of a bhikshu himself, appearing as a bhikshu. But in most of the cases, the Buddha arose into the principal lord of the deity, mandala, and then gave those tantric teachings. And therefore, we have to receive a blessing which has come through unbroken lineage. And so these tantric teachings, in order to authorize the disciples to listen to reflect, and to meditate on, you receive the initiations. It's called empowerment in that sense. So we are doing the great compassionate deity initiation here. As we all know, Avalokitesvara is known as the embodiment of the compassion of all the Buddhas. We, the Tibetans, say that we are the especially cared for by Avalokiteshvara, and it is true. Even in our childhood, we are used to avoiding killing even insects and reciting the Mani mantra, and then we have those of the Tibetan emperors like Songtsen Gampo and so forth, who were manifestations of the Avalokiteshvara, and then we had the line of Dalai Lamas. And including myself, of course, I do not have any called high realizations as such, but if I have something, I have some experience of the bodhicitta and the wisdom realizing emptiness. I have no vision of deities, my own meditation deities and so forth, but I have come to occupy this seat of the Dalai Lamas through the past Dalai Lamas' prayers, aspirational prayers, and so forth. And so it is quite clear that we Tibetans, I have the special connection with Avalokiteshvara. And from dreams, of course, dreams cannot be reliable as such. Sometimes I have quite special dreams. Just before the Cultural Revolution in China proper and in Tibet, I saw myself going to the Chokang temple, and I was actually in front of the temple where Avalokiteshvara, known as the Rangjung Adin, the And so when I saw the Avalokiteshvara statue, it actually was beckoning me to come in with his eyes blinking. And then I went there and I actually embraced him. And then Avalokiteshvara recited this verse with the strength of joyous effort, enthusiasm. You should not lose your heart. And with your great effort, you should perfect the practice of effort or the enthusiasm. And so, right after that, I heard, the Cultural Revolution happened, and then this statue was destroyed. So I usually tell people, I usually also think that Avalokiteshvara is my boss. We don't see Avalokiteshvara, do we? But I relate to people in this body. I who was born as an Amdo boy. So we have a very special connection with Avalokiteshvara, the people of the land of snows. So the people who are born in the land of snow have a special connection with Avalokiteshvara, and similarly, the teaching of the Buddha, this complete teaching of the Buddha, which comprised the Sutra and Tantra, which has spread to other places like Mongolia, with, starting with that of the third Dalai Lama, Sonam Gyatso, and then the fourth Dalai Lama, Yönden Gyatso. And so, since the times, the Tibetan entire teaching of the Buddha that has spread in Tibet also spread to Mongolia, and also before the Dalai Lamas, there was the Sakya Lama, Dogen Chogyal Pagpa, who also had connection with the Mongolians. Kublai Khan and I think Altan Khan and so forth. And so Buddhism that has spread in Tibet also spread at that time to Mongolia as well. And then later the Sonam Gyatso and Yönden Gyatso, the two Dalai Lamas, had this special link with, connection with the Mongolians. And so all those followers of this Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the entire teaching of the Buddha, have special connection with the Dalai Lamas and Avalokiteshvara as well. And so, with regard to Avalokiteshvara practice, there are those of the practice in accordance with the Kriya Tantra, your Charya Tantra, and so forth. So in the Kriya Tantra, you emphasize cleanliness and sticking to vegetarian meals. So there is the Tathagata lineage of Lotus and Vajra lineage of the Kriya Tantra. And so this particular one comes under the Lotus lineage. And there is Avalokiteshvara four-armed, and the thousand-armed, thousand-eyed Avalokiteshvara, and so forth. Many different aspects of Avalokiteshvara. And this particular initiation is the initiation of 1,000-armed, 1,000-eyed Avalokiteshvara, which I have received from Dr. Rinpoche in my childhood. And then when I was in Tromo, I received this initiation from my senior tutor, the late senior tutor, Gyabchen Rinpoche. And I did the necessary approximation retreat as well. So since I received these initiations, I must have recited a few million times this six-syllable mantra of Avalokiteshvara, when I was doing this Avalokiteshvara in retreat, I saw myself in Beijing, and in the walls of there in Beijing. I mean, everything that I saw was the image of Avalokiteshvara, filled with Avalokiteshvara. And recently also I saw that in my dream that everywhere I looked in a room there was Avalokiteshvara. And so it shows that it's quite clear that I have some connection with Avalokiteshvara. So when the Buddhas show in a certain form body or form dimension, they arise, they show called the form body in relation to a certain aspect of the Buddha's qualities, such as Manjushri in the aspect of Buddha's called wisdom manifestation, and Avalokiteshvara as the compassion of the Buddhas arising in the form of a deity. And so the initiation is 1,000 armed, 1,000-eyed Avalokiteshvara. And so this has come from the Gelongma or Bhikshuni Pelmo or Lakshmi. In Tibet and other places, there are people who do meditative recitations of the Avalokiteshvara and do the fasting practice. And so we are going to go through this initiation together with the preliminary process of the initiation in one go. So in order to give this initiation of Avalokiteshvara, usually we have the practice of offering the gektor, which is the torma, to drive away any evil beings who might otherwise said to be hinder the practice. So usually we also do this practice of we do some ceremony of bodhicitta when we do initiations and long life initiations and so forth. In Ladakh, when I was doing 1 year the long life initiation, and before doing that the blessing, I gave Bodhisattva vows. And having given that Bodhisattva vow, wherein we follow these lines where we say, may I, having generated this supreme mind of enlightenment, may I call on all sentient beings as my guests. But having done that, I didn't feel quite right to say, that these so-called evil beings, the obstacles and so forth, should be driven away. So, if we are practitioners of bodhicitta, as Master Chandideva says, may all the gods and so forth be joyous. At the end of the 3rd chapter of our the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, he says, in front of the Tathagatas, I call on all the sentient beings to the feast of Tathagata state, as well as in the meantime, those of the beneficial practices and experiences, and therefore he says, may all gods and non-demigods be joyous. And so I didn't feel in Ladakh quite comfortable to do this ritual to drive away the evil, what is known as the evil forces. which are, in which we do say that these spirits and so forth, so-called spirits and so forth, should be driven away through peaceful and more subjugation, subjugating practices as well as wrathful practices. And so I felt it's not comfortable to do this ritual to drive away evil forces. And so what I do is just make offering of torma to the local, what are known as shivdak, the local deities or spirits of the honor of this, the spirits who are like the honor of the land and so forth. And so we don't need to do, so I did just that, torma offering to the shivdaks. So with regards to this initiation, there is first the correcting, having the, holding the correct motivation. So you should have the correct motivation to receive this initiation. So those of you who wish to receive initiations, some of you may think that you are receiving this in order that you may not have no sickness, to have great power and to have wealth and so forth. And when within the power you want to subjugate others or to completely defeat those who are opposed to you. So these are wrong motivations to receive the initiation. For this is the request for the initiation from the sponsors. May this great drum of Dharma overcome the miseries of sentient beings, and may you live long to give the teaching. Live for eons. And so there are those who have that kind of motivation to receive initiation, and there are those who say that they want to have a higher rebirth, such as human rebirth, so that they will be able to serve the Dharma. And that kind of motivation is also not up to the measure for receiving this initiation. And then there are still others. As long as we have a life form which is under the influence of our karma and mental afflictions, so all sentient beings, including yourself, want happiness and do not want suffering, but want happiness. As I said the day before yesterday, though they wish to have happiness, they run after suffering. Though they do wish to have happiness, though they wish to overcome suffering, they run after suffering. And though they wish to have happiness, they destroy it as if destroying their own enemies out of ignorance. And so, this root of suffering is the three poisons, and those of called attachment and anger, hatred, which are in turn rooted in the fundamental misconception of reality. And so we have so far remained like a servant to, slave of our negative these mental afflictions. Although we are a single person, each of us, we should think that we will do whatever it is possible, in whatever possible ways, to serve other sentient beings. So the text says some seeking to practice sacred mantra wish to enter the mandala here. Some others desire merit, and still others seek something other than that. So directly or indirectly, you should actually motivate yourself to serve and benefit other sentient beings. And there's still others seeking something other than that. And so you should have that kind of a correct motivation to benefit and sentient beings. And for that reason, think of intent to receive this initiation. The intelligent ones who seek the future lives should faithfully strive for transcendence and enter the mandala, not desiring the result for this life. If one strives for this life alone, the purpose of future lives will not be fulfilled. Striving for the benefit of future lives will enhance the result in this one. And next is the generating yourself, the disciples, into the principle, the deity of the mandala, principal deity of the mandala. So as I explained earlier, here, whether you are Russians or, who is a Russian, where is a Russian or Kalmykian, you just reflect. So think to yourself. You have the sense of an I. You say, I am a Russian, or I am a Kalmykian, I am a Tibetan. Where is that Tibetanness or the Russianness and so forth? This body is not me, nor this mind am I. And then there is no self which is like ruling this body and the mind. So where is the I that you had this sense of? When you don't do any kind of this kind of analysis, you feel there is some solid I. And so even regarding the Buddha himself, the Master Nagarjuna in the 22nd chapter of Mula Madhyamaka Karika says, not the aggregates, not separate from the aggregates, not in it, nor it is in it. The Tathagata is not the aggregates. And what else is a Tathagata? So the Tathagata, depending on the uncontaminated aggregates, nor the uncontaminated aggregates are within the Tathagata, and so forth. And so this kind of analysis is done in the Mula Madhyamaka Karika. And so you can use the same verse relating to yourself. You are not, I am not this aggregate, nor separate or different from it, and I am not within the aggregates, nor the aggregates are within me. Who am I other than this? And Ratnavali, the precious garland, says a person is neither the earth, nor water, fire, air, space, nor the consciousness. What else is a person if not all these? And so, on the basis of the physical, psychophysical aggregates, or the combination of body and mind of a human being, we say, I am a human being. And this body is made up of all the elements. And so, each of the elements in turn cannot be found when you search for them within each of them. And so, the person is neither the earth, nor the wind, nor fire, nor water, nor space, nor the consciousness. And so, what else is a person? Master Nagarjuna says, a person is designated on the basis of these psychophysical aggregates. And within the psychophysical aggregates, each of the the elements which are made up of different elements, each element cannot be found within themselves if you search for it. And therefore, the person is designated on the basis of these aggregates, these constituent factors. And each constituent factor in turn has no real or intrinsic existence because they are also made up of their own constituent factors. And then Master Nagarjuna also says that a person is mere name, and so just as the space cannot be found, which is merely labeled, but then when you actually search for that designated object called space, you cannot find it. So similarly, it is the case with the sentient beings, the elements and so forth. And although things do appear as if they have some kind of objective independent existence from their own side, and if that is the if that is the reality, we should be able to really find when you search for them, but they cannot be found. And therefore, everything that appears and that is possible cannot be found when we search for their identity, as quantum physics also says. So just as the external objects, the material objects cannot be found when you do this kind of analysis into their nature and search for identity, similarly, it is the case that the internal world of sentient being cannot be found when you do this kind of critical analysis and search for their identity, the objects designated. So, although things do appear to you as if they have some objective existence, feel convinced in your mind that this is not true. Nothing whatever has any objective existence. And so, external objects are like that, and yourself as individuals also cannot be found from within or amongst the aggregates, the body and the consciousness. So although what you find when you do this kind of analysis is, what you find is emptiness. The body or the self and material things cannot be found when you do this kind of analysis. When we do not do any kind of critical analysis, we take it for granted that this and that thing exists. When you actually search for the I from within the body and the mind, what you come to is, I do not exist. And so that insight what it does is, when your mind is absorbed in it, the rest of the diversities of things and the conceptions cease. And that mind, which is now absorbed in emptiness, imagine that you have this certitude about emptiness and absorbed in emptiness. From within that emptiness, with meditation, you arise into Avalokitesvara with one face and two hands. Sorry. Please repeat this, O great blissful, you are my teacher. O Master, please pay attention to me. The firm way of great enlightenment, I beg you, O great protector, please grant me the pledges. The spirit of enlightenment, the Buddha, Dharma and Sangha, O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of liberation. O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of liberation. O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of liberation. So next is So fostering firm conviction in tantrayana. So as long as if you do not wish to attain the three Buddha bodies, I mean, that is it. If you really wish to attain it, you need to engage in a practice which has the complete features or aspects of the path and the practices which lead to the attainment of the three Buddha bodies. So the master says, "Come here, my child, I'll correctly teach you this ritual of conduct for the Mahayana secret mantra. You are agreed in a suitable vessel, possessing the Vajra body, speech, and mind." And all Buddhas of the three times found the perfect, unequaled, exalted wisdom through the power of Vajra mantra. The line of Shakyamuni and the other supreme ones used the unparalleled practice of secret mantra to destroy the hordes of incredible and powerful evils. After knowing the world would follow them, they turned the wheel of dharma and passed into the state of beyond sorrow. So in order to attain omniscience, my child, exert your intelligence. And then, with regard to the taking the vows of Bodhisattvas, we'll do it during the actual initiation. So having arisen or transformed yourself into the deity, your three doors, your forehead or crown and the throat and heart are marked with these three letters, Om, Ah, Hum. Om. So at the heart of the disciples is the black five-pointed Vajra in the center of, on which is a black syllable Hum on a sun disk. At your throat, red, the eight-petaled lotus, in the center of which is Ah, red in color, on the moon. And on your crown, a white eight-spoked wheel, in the center of which is Om on a moon disk. So, since we are doing this initiation and the preliminary process here together, we don't go through the process of checking dreams as such. So we have already done the mandala offering earlier. Oh, great blissful one, please pay attention to me. And you are also asking the master to grant you the pledges of samayas, the spirit of enlightenment, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, the three refuges. O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of enlightenment. O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of enlightenment. O protector, please lead me to the supreme city of enlightenment. Please put on the blindfold. So this symbolizes the tantrayana, which is a secret mantrayana. So secrecy here refers to doing the practice with restrictions. In India, it was passed on from the guru to a suitable receptacle or receptive disciple in a very secret manner. In Tibet also, in the earlier Kadam masters tradition, the Tantra was practiced very secretly. But eventually, it became widespread in Tibet. So Buddhism, which has spread the length and breadth of the Tibet, so I think that to a certain extent, the tantric practice has rather gone astray. People don't really emphasize the fundamental practice of bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness, but do rituals, making offerings of dharma and so forth, without anybody being there to explain about these practices of Tantra. And so, although Tantra has spread so widely in Tibet, our dharma, this religious tradition, has become like a practice of a blind faith. So this is what we have been done. And so Tantra, to symbolize the secrecy of the practice of Tantra, I've been doing it in secretly. You are given this blindfold and you put on this. And now hold your hand in this gesture and then open it up, all the fingers. So this is called the samaya, or the mudra of the lotus lineage. So hold this hand gesture at your heart and repeat this Om Padma Upavaya Swaha. So the disciples, appearing in the form of Avalokitesvara, have the three letters Om on your crown, A at your throat, and Hum at your heart. So next is taking the Bodhisattva vows. So these Bodhisattva practices are the practices whereby we learn how to foster our courage to overcome our selfish, self-cherishing attitude and cherishing others over oneself. So as I have been explaining in the last 2 days, bodhicitta is really a great practice. It's really a precious practice. So what we do is we are so selfishly indulging that all kinds of bad things are happening to us, unwanted things are happening to ourselves. And if you look at the people around you, I mean, they are also full of all kinds of hope and fears, and therefore lots of suffering and so forth, because of selfishness. So, of course, we need to be compassionate and loving, but what disturbs our mind, peace of mind, is these destructive emotions, this the selfish attitude. So bodhicitta, this spirit of enlightenment, is the main factor leading us to Buddhahood. Even on a daily basis, it will really be beneficial to one's own peace of mind. Why? Because self-cherishing attitude leads to improper ruminations and thinking, and therefore we create karma, which leads us to suffer. And when you have something that you face, to which you are attracted, I mean, you become attached. And when there are some things which you dislike, you face them and you become angry. So these two factors, which are the self-cherishing attitude and grasping at true existence, independent existence of self, have worked, I mean, hand in hand to lead us, enslave us in suffering. Although we wish to overcome suffering, we are not able to do that. Though we wish happiness, we are not able to attain that. That is because of these two factors. So Master Nagarjuna, Master Shantideva actually points out and actually the shortcomings and faults of self-cherishing attitude and these advantages of cherishing others over oneself. And so far, though we have indulged ourselves and be enslaved by, us be enslaved by these two negative factors, now is the time to really change that. with the cherishing others and the wisdom of emptiness. And so in the beginning, when I received the teaching, started receiving the teaching of Bodhicitta, I have found it to be very difficult practice to do, whereas the wisdom realizing emptiness, I found it quite interesting. And I have told Tata Rinpoche, my guru, that that I find bodhicitta to be very difficult to cultivate. And Tata Rinpoche also said, yes, it is difficult, but if you really put effort, it can be generated and cultivated and developed within yourself. And Tata Rinpoche himself told me that he has the experience of genuine bodhicitta within himself. And therefore, it was an I took inspiration from that, and then trained myself and in the cultivation of bodhicitta for the last over 60 years or so. I have developed, cultivated this insight into emptiness. And then, after I received, especially received teaching on Bodhisattva Charyavatara, I trained myself on bodhicitta. And so these two practices are really beneficial to reduce one's the intensity of self-grasping attitude, and also this cherishing oneself over others. And so I confidently, of course, can, to a certain degree, can say that these are really beneficial to oneself from my own experience, little experience. So it is very clear that one can attain one's own goal and the goal of other sentient beings on the basis of bodhicitta. And therefore, we are going to do this ceremony of taking Bodhisattva vow. So this tea that has been lying on the table since some time, it's cold now, although it's now time to do the Bodhisattva vow. But it's tasty anyway. So as we have the image of the Buddha behind me, or the Thangka painting, the Buddha Shakyamuni appeared as a supreme Nirmanakaya, manifestation or emanation form of Buddha, which ensues from Sambhogakaya, the complete enjoyment body, and which in turn, these two arise from that of the Dharmakaya, the wisdom Dharmakaya. And so these three, the Dharmakaya, and the Sambhogakaya and Nirmanakaya, are the three Buddha bodies. So in the Sanskrit tradition, the three Buddha bodies are mentioned. And around the Buddha, in the form of Supreme Nirmanakaya, imagine those of the 8 close disciples in the form of deity, including also Aryatara. And then those of the 7 successors to the Buddha, and so forth. And then those of the 17 Nalanda masters, as well as the great Mahasiddhas, and also the masters of the lineages of Nyingma and tradition, within which there are those of the lineages of Kama, the word of the Buddha, and then Terma, and as well as the revealed treasure teachings, as well as those of the profound visionary teachings, lineage. And then the Sakya masters of the Lamde tradition, the path and the fruit, and then also the masters of Sakya masters such as the 5 Pratyaks and so forth, as well as the Kagyu masters like Maba Lotsawa and the Milarepa and Gampopa and so forth, and then those of the Kadam tradition, Adisha and Damtempa and so forth, and then the Chonang and the Geluk traditions of which have come from the Master Tsongkhapa and his disciples and so forth, and also Jonang tradition, as we say, the 8 lineages or the chariots of practice and so forth. So we can actually see that all sentient beings, when you look at yourself as an example, you'll see that everyone else also wants happiness and do not want suffering. So of course there may be those who have reached a very high level of experience, but regarding ourselves, we can say that we really don't know how to go about with the real practice, that the suffering is rooted in our mental afflictions, this grasping at true existence, and also cherishing oneself alone over others. And so now is the time that, even if it may be a slight, we somehow understand, have heard, what actually causes us suffering and what can be what can uproot this cause of suffering to a certain degree. And so the Buddhas are our teacher, and the actual refuge for us is the experience of the Buddhas, the stage of purification, and those purified states of mind, as well as those of the realizations of the path. And so those of the objects of refuge have these experiences, and such as the Buddhas who have reached that ultimate goal, ultimate abandonment, state of abandonment and realization, as well as those who are on the path, and they are the ones who are our role models. So the enlightened deeds of the Buddhas radiate all the time, and so forth is said in Mahayana Uttara Tantra. And so we have the Buddha nature, in other words, this verse says. So whatever negative karmas we may have created through this self-cherishing attitude, we confess them in this ritual. And then the text says, so you seek refuge in the 3 jewels, and then confess all your misdeeds individually, and I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. And then you say, I take to my heart Buddha's enlightenment, which means that you are aspiring to reach that goal of enlightenment. And then the text says, to the Buddha Dharma in the highest assembly, I seek refuge until I reach enlightenment. And so there's no greater cause than bodhicitta to achieve one's goal in this life, in future lives, as well as the Buddhahood. So to have a very relaxed and composed life, even in this lifetime, there's nothing greater than bodhicitta. I mean, you see yourself equal to others. I actually see everyone else as equal to me, and because of that, I feel rather, I have this sense of abandon and not feeling somebody special and have pride and so forth. If I think that I am Avalokiteshvara and so forth, it's like I'm deceiving myself. So when you have that sense of humanness that we all share, you really feel happy. Whereas if you think yourself as somebody special, it is an extra suffering, and it doesn't help in any way to me. So now, with bodhicitta, really, countering this, the self-cherishing attitude, you see others as your near and dear ones, friends, and so it makes a great difference when you have this attitude of bodhicitta. And so to the Buddha, Dharma, and highest assembly, I seek refuge until I am enlightenment. To fulfill the interests of oneself and others, I shall generate the mind for awakening. So to fulfill one's own goal as well as the interest of others, to accumulate merit and meritorious actions as well as purifying negativities, there is nothing greater than bodhicitta. And it is the great medicine to cure the disease of sentient beings. It is like it is the sun that dispels the darkness of sentient beings' ignorance, and it is like the butter churned from the ocean of milk of dharma. And it's also this treasure which dispels the poverty of sentient beings, and it is like the tree which gives this cool shade to the wandering beings in the samsaric path. So there's nobody that you can actually see as your enemies or harmful spirits and enemies of the dharma and so forth. So, as I quoted earlier from Shantideva's Bodhisattva Charyavatara, where he says, today in front of the Tathagatas, I call on the sentient beings to the feast of this Tathagataship, and also that of the happiness and benefit in the meantime. So may humans and non-humans be joyous, and therefore, in order to fulfill the interests of myself and others, I generate the mind for enlightenment. And by generating this mind of supreme enlightenment, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. And so, from now on, you are saying that you will do everything that, those actions, engage in actions which only gives benefit to sentient beings. And I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I engage in the supreme appealing conduct of enlightenment for the benefit of beings. May I attain Buddhahood. And so, from the depths of your heart, feel joy to engage in the Bodhisattva practices, and kneel on your right knee if you can. But so, taking the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas as your witness, imagine all sentient beings in the 6 realms of existence across the expanse of space, and reflect that you have found this precious human life, that you have met with the Dharma, and especially if you do not start from now to generate bodhicitta. And so bodhicitta is that vehicle that leads you from blissful to blissful state, as Master Shantideva says. Which intelligent person does not, despair of riding the bodhicitta horse, which leads from bliss to bliss. As I explained earlier, now you should feel that from now on, my boss are these 2 principles of bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness. And so, when you have the confidence in the bodhicitta and the wisdom of emptiness, you will not have fear to work for sentient beings' benefit. So, what you are saying by these lines is that you will generate bodhicitta, this spirit of enlightenment, and not only that, you will engage in the bodhisattva practices of the 6 perfections and so forth. And with this, you are taking the Bodhisattva vow, which comprise of the 18 root downfalls and the 46 secondary infractions. And so you will be able to overcome them if you are able to restrain selfish attitude. Please repeat, I seek refuge in the 3 jewels and confess all sins individually. I rejoice in the virtues of beings. I take to heart Buddha's enlightenment. I seek refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme community until I am enlightened. In order to fulfill the interests of myself and others, I generate the mind for enlightenment. And by generating the mind for supreme enlightenment, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I engage in the supremely appealing contact of enlightenment for the benefit of beings. May I attain Buddhahood. Please repeat it for the 2nd time now, having repeated it once. So, with the Buddhas as and the Bodhisattvas as your witness and also your role models, you should think that you will engage in the Bodhisattva practices just like the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. I seek refuge in the 3 jewels. I confess all misdeeds individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. I take to my heart the Buddha's enlightenment. I seek refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme community until I'm enlightened. In order to fulfill the interests of myself and others, I generate the mind of enlightenment. By generating the mind of supreme enlightenment, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I engage in the supreme appealing conduct of enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. May I attain enlightenment. So now, at the end of the 3rd repetition, when you say, for the benefit of all sentient beings, may I attain Buddhahood, you feel convinced that you have received Bodhisattva vows, that you have if you have received it before and caused decline to it, they are recovered. If you have not received it before, you are receiving it a fresh set of the Bodhisattva vows. And if you have not caused any decline, they are enhanced further. And so feel that you receive this Bodhisattva vow. I seek refuge in the 3 jewels. I confess all sins individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. I take to heart the Buddha's enlightenment. I seek refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Supreme Assembly until I'm enlightened. In order to fulfill the interests of myself and others, I generate mind for enlightenment. By generating mind for supreme enlightenment, I shall invite all sentient beings and I engage the supremely appealing contact of enlightenment for the benefit of beings. May I attain Buddhahood. So this please repeat these lines also. Today my life is borne fruit. I have attained an excellent human existence. Today I am born into the Buddha's family, and now I have become a Buddha's child. Now come what may, I shall act in accord with this lineage, never causing this impeccable noble lineage be tarnished. As long as space endures, as long as sentient beings remain, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the transmigrators. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the transmigrators. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, until then may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the transmigrators. So next is generating what is known as the all-encompassing yoga mind. So have a very intense sense of wanting to liberate all sentient beings from suffering and wishing to become enlightened, a Buddha, so that this attitude of bodhicitta transforms at your heart into a moon disk, and then you meditate on emptiness, that nothing whatever has any inherent independent existence, that they are devoid of any inherent existence. And so that wisdom or insight into emptiness transforms into a white 5-spoked vajra at your heart standing on the moon disk. And so these two symbolize or represent your conventional bodhicitta with the moon disk, and then the ultimate bodhicitta with that of the vajra. So from now on, until I attain Buddhahood, in whatever situation of life you are, in this life, in the intermediate, and in the next rebirth, and so forth, you should make a pledge that you will never lose this, you will never slacken in your effort to cultivate them and maintain and enhance them further. So please repeat this. Om Sarva Yoga Citta Upatayami. Om Sarva Yoga Citta Upatayami. Om Sarva Yoga Citta Upatayami. So, just as you have imagined these two bodhicittas represented by the moon disk and the Vajra, the moon and the Vajra mind, a similar moon and Vajra minds are also at the heart of the master Avalokitesvara, and from which replicas of them come forth, shoot forth towards you, and they dissolve into the moon disk and the Vajra at your heart, and thereby stabilize your bodhicitta. So the attendant was too quick. He was not supposed to go ahead with whatever he was doing. His Holiness said, should I hit this Vajra on your head? So I will attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. And you should not disclose this secrecy practice to others who have not entered the mandala or who have no faith in Tantra. So now the eastern door of the mandala is being opened, and imagine that you are now led inside the mandala, and then you make make three rounds. Please repeat: Maharata, Sundinda, Suduko, Susoko, Benzasato, Adisedema, Maharata, Sundinda, Suduko, Susoko, Benzasato, Adisedema, Maharata, Sundinda, Suduko, Susoko, Benzasato, Adisedemam. So now, having made three circumambulations to the deities of the mandala, you now go from the eastern door. And from the eastern door, you make these prostrations: Om Nama Tehum, Om Nama Mehum, Om Nama Nama Namo Nama Hum. Please repeat: all Tathagatas, bless me, great compassionate one, please descend into me. All great compassionate one, please descend into me. Great compassionate one, please descend into me. So from the rays of light that emit from the heart of the Guru and the deity in the mandala, the great compassionate deity is invoked, and they come down and shower onto you, and thereby you are blessed with the body of the Buddha, the great compassionate deity. The Riga at the heart of the Lama, who is not distinct from the central deity, emits rays inviting non-dual primordial awareness of great compassion, and all Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in 10 directions to descend into the aspect of the letter tree, and then it is dissolved into the disciple's body. Vajra, so forth. And now cover your eyes with the blindfold slightly, and then lift it up and look up in the space quickly. So if you see some color, such as white, yellow, red, or green, I mean, they symbolize or represents achieving the different siddhis or the activities. When I received the great Mahachakra Vajrapani initiation from Segundo Rinpoche, I actually at this point saw a green color. And so there sometimes it happens. Now make 3 circumambulations to the mandala and repeat this. Om Shri Beza Gota Hayagriva Hulu Hulu Humpe. Shri Beza Gota Hayagriva Hulu Hulu Humpe. Next is uttering the power of truth. So since I have bad knees, I won't get down from this throne and then to have to go up, come up again. So Buddha Dojishang used to do this particular ritual while sitting on the throne. So I will follow that tradition. So now, the flower garland that you have been given, please hold it in your hands and imagine that you are all throwing your flowers garland in the mandala, inside the mandala. Imagine this. So the negativities of the body, speech, and mind of the disciples are cleansed. And now you go inside the mandala and please repeat this. Umbezapati, Girhana Humpe. So with this you offer the flower garland to the deity, the 1,000-armed, 1,000-eyed Avalokitesvara, the main deity, and to whichever deity this flower has fallen, you receive the secret name from in that. So the secret name would be Dharma Vajra. So this flower that you have offered up to the deity is now blessed and given back to you and put on your head. So put the flower on your head or just stick it on your forehead. So at your heart is a home syllable on a moon disc, and Ram at your forehead, and Om in the 2 eyes. And now remove the blindfold. Om. Now this is the moment of introducing the deities of the mandala. Please repeat this request line. So this vase that the monk is carrying, it's called Nambum. Oh yeah. Oh, didn't you see that?
Lama to so time the bed over the join the Yahoo and the Lama, which is over the Jana, to which you want to come. Jamala so was one on Chance you also Mongo is going so the Jamala so the tree, when they get over you. First of all, I was in the young woman was almost on the way that that I'm sure.
So, the blessed water will be distributed, and so the deities of the initiation hold the vase, which is filled with the blessed water, and they pour the water on you, so that imagine that your stains of your within your mind, which are of those of the self-cherishing attitude and the grasping at true existence, are cleansed. And then the deities of the initiation are dissolved into the disciples. So of the two yogas, this initiation of water empowers you to do the yoga without signs. Next is the crown empowerment. Just as the great Bodhi Vajra presented great offerings to the Buddha, so that I may be free today, please grant me the space Vajra. So then the crown initiation. Please bring the crown. The crown is now blessed with the water and the action mantra. It then dissolves into emptiness and arises as a crown of the nature of the 5 Buddha families. For the benefit of the disciples, the empowerment deities are invited by sending light rays from the seed syllable at the heart of the Guru, who is not different or from the central deity, to those abiding in the 10 directions. The wrathful ones abiding in the intermediate directions dispel obstacles. So with this empowerment of the crown, you are left with the imprint for the Buddha's form body. Please feel convinced that you are receiving that initiation to read the imprint. So with this, you have received the crown empowerment, which leaves imprint for the Rupakaya. And next is the mantra recitation, the transmission. Please repeat Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme Hum. Let us recite this 21 times together. Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om So next, the support of subsequent permission to establish the auspicious connection to become a universal emperor. Emperor, imagine in front of you a wheel. In your right hand a conch, in your left hand a text of the action Tantra class. The wheel is produced from Brum, the conch from A, and the text from the first A. Starting from today, merely the dharma of the mind generation, the unsurpassable conch is completely fulfilled, turning the wheel of dharma. So you're given the 7 royal emblems, and then the 8 auspicious symbols or substances. So you are authorized to do the practice of the 3 lineages of the Kriya Tantra and give teachings to others. Based on this Avalokiteshvara initiation, which is now completed, this is the homage to Manjushri. So please recite Om Arabhaja Nadi, the mantra of Manjushri, while I do the concluding ritual of this initiation of Avalokiteshvara. So next is the white Manjushri, which the permission which I received from Tata Rinpoche when I received the Rinjung Gyatsa, the collection of hundreds of initiations and janangs called in the Rinjung collection of Rinjung Gyatsa. When I was in my childhood, I received it from Tata Rinpoche. I see special significance here with wisdom. The Manjushri as the wisdom deity, we can see him to help with our increase of wisdom or intelligence. And then, because it is the white Manjushri, it also has the significance of developing the Bodhisattva, and so I saw this special significance in this particular Manjushri. Mandala kamniyataya mi. So the Manjushri here is white in color, as you see in the Thanga painting, and around him, when he's surrounded by the root and lineage gurus, in other words, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and so in front of them you take refuge, you take the Bodhisattva vow again, although this will not give you a fresh set of Bodhisattva vow as such, but whatever you have received earlier will be enhanced. I seek refuge in the three jewels. I confess all misdeeds individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. I take to my heart Buddha's enlightenment. To the Buddha, Dharma, and highest assembly, I seek refuge until enlightenment, fulfill the interest of oneself, and thus I shall generate mind of awakening. Having generated the mind for highest awakening, I shall invite all sentient beings as my guests. I shall engage in the delightful supreme practices of enlightenment. May I attain Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. So repeat this. Simjen Tamje Dag Dundo Nyer Chanjo Chucho Yon Chebargi Dola Penjer Sanje Drobar Shaw. I seek refuge in the three jewels. I confess all misdeeds individually. I rejoice in the virtues of all beings. I take to heart Buddha's enlightenment. To the Buddha Dharma and highest assembly, I seek refuge until enlightenment is reached. To fulfill the interest of oneself, others, I generate bodhicitta. Having generated the bodhicitta, I shall invite sentient beings as my guests. I shall engage in the supreme enlightened conduct. May I attain Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. So there are 4 janangs in it. May I be able to have the vision of Protector Manjushri whenever I wish to have it. I wish to see him. And so, as I already said earlier, with this mantra, you should recall emptiness. And so your body and all the constituent factors and faculties and so forth dissolve into emptiness. And from within the state of emptiness. So there arises this lake of milk, filled with there are varieties of flowers and lotus and so forth, and around that lake is a meadow filled with birds and so forth, and singing beautiful songs, and also elephants roaming in the forest and so forth. And in the center of this lake, lake of milk, from palm syllable arises a lotus tree. And then in the center of that lotus is the R, which transforms the white color R, from which rays of light are emitted, and they touch the sentient beings and overcome the dispel their ignorance and grant them the light of wisdom within themselves. And these rays of light that have emitted, come back, and then you transform into the Manjushri, white in color, with one face and two hands. So, on yourself appearing as Manjushri, your body, speech, and mind are marked with the three letters, and imagine that a replica of the Manjushri, white Manjushri, in front comes and dissolves into you. Thereby, you receive the blessing of the body of Manjushri. So this is a request for to Manjushri for his blessing of wisdom. Lovingly, you supreme knowledge is light rays. Your supreme knowledge is light rays. Fully dispel the darkness of ignorance in my mind. Please repeat Om Vake Denama, 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 Om Vake Denama. Om Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi, Om Arabazanadi. So please grant me courageous intelligence to fully understand the scriptures of the Shastras and so forth. So I'll hold you, Bhagwan. Please be close to me, or so with this you have received the entire blessing of the speech of Manjushri. And then next is the blessing of the mind of Manjushri. Please repeat this. With wisdom, not abiding in samsara. With compassion, not abiding in with the peace. So I pray to the mind of Manjushri. So since you are already sitting on on your chair, straighten your body. Both the disciple and the guru hold our hands in this meditation with the left hand under the right hand, palms up, touching the tip of the two thumbs, and which are placed at the navel, at the level of your navel, the thumbs touching. So now, this time, you are not looking down, which is the usual practice in meditation, but here it is just like in Dzogchen practice, you actually fix your gaze in front of you.
rangin dungi minzum zamla yigi akar bu chikta.
So imagine an R letter at the level of your mid-eyebrow right in front of you. So A is a letter of negation in Sanskrit. And so what this represents or symbolizes is that things do not exist the way they appear to us. And so because of this negation, letter of negation, it represents that of emptiness. So while gazing, fixing your gaze at the R syllable, short R, it's in your mind you should reflect that whatever there is in samsara nirvana, everything has no intrinsic existence. When you search for their identity, Master Chandrakirti says that if you assert that things have some defining characteristic, then the Arya realization of emptiness would actually be the destroyer of objects. So when you actually search or analyze the things, what appears is that they have some kind of independent existence, objective existence, but that is not the way things are. And so you cannot find anything when you actually put them under the lens of this kind of search. So although things do appear as if they have some kind of objective existence, just feel convinced in your heart that this is not the case. While gazing at the R syllable, in your mind ascertain that nothing whatever has any objective existence. And while gazing at the R, repeat it 21 times. And now this R syllable dissolves or disappears like the rainbow. And your mind is now fixed, not dull, not with mental laxity, but also without any excitation. And this R disappears, which represents the R, which represents that of the non-inherent existence, disappears, and your mind is now fixed on emptiness. And the Guru places a flower on the crown of the disciples. May the disciples receive all the blessings of body, speech, and mind of Manjushri. So with this, you receive the blessing of mind. Now please repeat these request lines from now on until I reach enlightenment. O protector Manjushri, please be my guru, please be my guru, please be my guru. Now the Guru gives the Manjushri Nama Sangiti scripture in the hands of the Guru, the disciples. So this is the Tantra of Manjushri, called Manjushri Nama Sangiti, or chanting the names of Manjushri. So if you study and practice what is taught in this scripture, you should actually go through the process of study, reflection, and meditation, and develop the experience within yourself and share this teaching with others, disciples. And So, as you have fervently requested, this blessing of Manjushri, I also, out of my compassion, given this Jenang permission to practice on White Manjushri to you. Whatever merit I've gained from this, and through that merit, may all sentient beings develop the wisdom of Manjushri. So the virtues are dedicated, and Manjushri has the significance of dispelling our darkness of ignorance within ourselves, as the prayer or the this prayer of Manjushri says. So what Manjushri helps is for us to increase our wisdom so that we are able to overcome all negativities from within our mind stream. So with this, we have completed the teaching and this Dharma discourse. You have come here. We are all gathered here. We have gathered here with great enthusiasm, and I have also come from afar. I'm not sure if I can come again and again or often. Whatever the case may be, the important thing is that, as I've explained, on the basis based on the Master Tsongkhapa's text, and also on emptiness, gave teaching on emptiness, you should practice it well. So if you do that, then you'll be able to fulfill your goal. The things will be good for you. This is the dedication prayer. As long as space remains, as long as sentient beings remain, may I to remain to dispel the miseries of transmigrators. So the dedication verses are just as a brave Manjushri and Samantabhadra to realize things as they are. Also, I dedicate all these merit in the best way that I may follow the perfect example. I dedicate all these roots of virtue with the dedication praised as the best by the victorious ones, thus gone of the 3 times, so that I might perform the noble Bodhisattva's deeds. So with this, we are done with the teaching and initiation this time, and then His Holiness also recited these dedication prayers where from the prayer of the words of truth. In short, may the good fruit of any extensive prayers to fully protect the land of snows made by the powerful protector Chandrasika in the presence of the Buddhas and their children appear soon here and now. So it's up to the individuals whether you want to religion, whether you want to follow a religion or not. But since Buddhism, in Buddhism, it's very important to use our intelligence and wisdom. It's very important for us to do study of Buddhism. So these teachings are beneficial to everyone, whether you are a practitioner or not, whether you are a practitioner of in the religion or not, Buddhism or not. So those of us who follow the Tibetan tradition of Buddhism, it is very important for us to pursue study of the teaching of the Buddha.